Hi guys, welcome to our daily encounter. In Exodus chapter 9, we read about the plague of the hail. This was one of the plagues that was brought against Pharaoh and against Egypt for not letting God's people go. And this was a terrible plague. I'm sure it was very frightening. There was fire in the air, there was lightning and large hailstones falling from the sky. And we're told that it hailed in Egypt like it never had before. And it was a very scary and a very deadly plague. But once the plague was gone, once Pharaoh had said, okay, well, I'll let the people go and treat Yahweh and this, that, and the other. Uh, After the thunder and the hail and the lightning ceased, this is what it says in verse 34. But Pharaoh saw that the rain and the hail and the thunder had ceased. So he sinned again and hardened his heart with firmness, he and his servants. And Pharaoh's heart was hardened with strength, and he did not let the sons of Israel go, just as Yahweh had spoken by the hand of Moses. So we find that, after the dust settled, as it were, after the storm was gone, Pharaoh went right back to saying, no, I'm not going to let the people go. He hardened his heart again. And I think this is a common experience for a lot of people. Whenever we enter into a hardship, maybe it's something that's very terrifying, something very scary, or it could be something else, something just that's very pressing, something that is very challenging. And we go to the Lord and we have the best intentions to say, you know what, Lord, if you'll bring me through this hardship, through this trial, I'll dedicate my life to you, or I'll do this, that, or the other. And in the midst of the storm, we would pretty much do anything for the Lord to come to our aid and to help us. But then something happens. After, again, the dust settles, after the trial is over, after the sun shines once again, soon we forget what we had told the Lord in the midst of the storm. And we might forget then to fulfill what we said that we would do in the midst of the storm, when we were entreating that the Lord would come and help us and would bring us through that storm. And that's a very common thing. But it can also be even more general than that. Whenever hardships come, we tend to always draw closer to the Lord, or oftentimes people draw close to the Lord. It is true that sometimes storms will pull people even further from the Lord. But for those who have a heart sensitive to the Lord and they enter into trials, oftentimes they'll draw closer to the Lord because they need his strength, they need his comfort, they need his consolation and his help in the storm. And so they draw real close to the Lord. But then the trial is over, and whenever it's over, then they begin to forget the Lord. And they go back into the day-to-day mundane and stop seeking the Lord. And that's something we can all fall into. That's a trap we can all fall into. And hopefully this story will warn us not to do that. That however much we were seeking the Lord, however much we were trusting in the Lord, however much we had vowed to give our lives to the Lord during the storm, we ought to do during the sunshine as well. Because we have just as much reason to serve the Lord when we're in the sunshine as we do when we're in a hailstorm. Because he is who he is, no matter what our circumstances are. And it's because of who he is. That's why we should commit our lives to him. That's why we should give him our all. That's why we should draw close to him each and every day and every moment. Not so much because of what we're going through in our circumstances, but because of who he is. And so we don't want to fall into the trap that Pharaoh did, where he would, and this isn't the only time he did this, that whenever the plagues were heavy and difficult, he would then bend and want to give in to what the Lord wants. But then when the plague's gone, then he goes back to the way that he was before. We don't want to follow that example. We want to be people who are committed to the Lord, who submit to the Lord in all circumstances, in all situations, and give him his due. in our worship, in our lives, in our obedience, in everything. And again, not dependent on our circumstances, but dependent on who he is as God of the universe, as creator of all things. So hopefully our reading today will help us to gain that type of attitude. And with that, guys, I do thank you for watching the video today. Hope you guys have a great day. Love you guys. God bless.